Culinary culture is an expression of lifestyle, natural culture, and is typical for each ethnic group, country and population. Not to mention, it is also greatly influenced by weather and regional beliefs. However, there are foods in the world that just hearing how they are made or smelling them from afar can make us vomit. Let's find out with Strange World the 10 most terrifying dishes in the world. 10. Hanjeeo, Korean specialty, smells so bad that public toilets have to cry and beg for defeat. Hanjeeo, also known as Hanjeeo ho, is an extremely popular dish in Korea. Made from fermented stingray, Hanjeeo is considered one of the best Korean dishes to date. However, the smell emanating from the dish made many people not want to go near it, let alone put it in their mouths. The explanation for this horrible taste: stingrays excrete urine through their skin. When they are caught and fermented, the uric acid in their skin turns into ammonia, which gives the urine its distinctive odor. One South Korean man told the New York Times, "I can't understand anyone in the world willing to pay to eat a rotten fish in a restaurant that smells like a public toilet. I've eaten dogs, durians and bugs, but this is still the most challenging food I've ever had to put in my mouth," says food blogger Joe McPherson. "It's like licking a urinal over and over again." According to NPR, an average of 11,000 tons of hanjeeo are consumed in South Korea each year. 9. A special dish of rotten meat, swallowing, in the mountains of Son La, Vietnam. Son La is a mountainous province in the northwest of Vietnam that is not only famous for its extremely beautiful tourist destinations. This place is also famous for many unique and strange specialties that make listeners and viewers both excited and scared. In which rotten meat with maggots is an indispensable dish in important occasions of the Khmer ethnic group. To create rotten meat, they hang the meat in the kitchen upstairs for a week, then sprinkle it daily with water to create moisture, attracting flies to come and settle in, bringing microorganisms with them. The meat is not marinated with salt and spices, but hangs and waits to decompose until it stinks. Then it is processed. The more rotten the meat meets the standards, and especially the more maggots the processor likes, the more delicious the dish. They only hang the most easily rotten parts such as organs, belly meat. To cook kin kung dish, people have to pour the stewed water, then add vegetables, spices and add a little rice flour to make it smooth. Among those spices are full forest pepper, garlic, ginger, forest leaves, chili, lemongrass. To help people treat stomach diseases, liver, stable bile. Previously, kin kung dishes were obtained from hunting products of the Khmer people. All hunting animals such as pigs, buffaloes, cows, deer are put into processing. In particular, rats are very popular because they cause the most rotten smell of all kinds of meat. There are cases when going to the forest, meeting an animal that has been dead for a long time, the Khmer people still take meat to use. This is an indispensable dish in the reception parties of the Khmer people. According to them, if there is no such dish on the table, it is considered that the host is rude to the guests. And if a guest refuses the dish for any reason, it will also betray the owner. So, come to Son La, try to discover this unique dish. 8. Shiokara, the dish, smelly, but is extremely popular with Japanese people. Shiokara is a dish made from small pieces of seafood, usually cuttlefish, and then soaked in its own internal organs. Then, people will add salt and seasoning ingredients such as shichimi, mixture of chili peppers, wasabi, mustard, and a little rice flour. This dish, after being mixed with spices, will be stored in a sealed glass jar for about 1 month to ferment before it can be eaten. However, the best shiokara should be the one that has been aged for a period of 6 months. During the fermentation process, shiokara will gradually blend with the ingredients and the final product is a thick brown dish that is both viscous and sticky. Many people think that it is because of the fishy smell of the squid and the sour smell of the mixed spices that make this dish very difficult to smell. When taking out shiokara from the jar, it is usually served in small bowls, served with steamed rice and sake. In addition to the characteristic strong fishy smell, the taste of shiokara is more salty and a bit spicy. Although at a glance, many people will find this dish to be unappealing. However, when mixed with white rice, shiokara exudes a very attractive flavor. 7. The dish, the most rotten in the world, is eaten while covering the nose, but the taste is recognized as super delicious. There are many ways to make rotten tofu, and also depending on the method, the rottenness of tofu will be different. If the tofu is only fermented with ordinary brine, the rotten smell will be absorbed and it is probably not too difficult for you to pass the first taste. However, there are many heirloom shops that marinate tofu in their own style, making the tofu indescribably rotten. But it is also this strong stench that makes diners come to eat more and more. An heirloom rotten tofu shop shares the secret to making the world's most rotten tofu with a recipe that makes you know it's rotten at first glance. The shop owner shared that in order to have a good dish of rotten tofu, there must be good salt water. And the brine she made by fermenting all kinds of vegetables with salt for about 2 years to let the vegetables rot. Then, she filtered the water from the pickled vegetables and put the tofu in fermentation. The longer the tofu is soaked in brine with vegetables, the softer it will be, and of course the more rotten it will be. More specifically, many regions in China also soak fermented tofu until it turns black. And these black tofu balls are a great challenge for foreign tourists who want to try stinky tofu for the first time. 6. Rakfisk, a rotten fish delicacy. Norway's 5 million people enjoy one of the highest standards of living, not just in Europe, but in the world. Could the secret of the country's success be connected to the local appetite for some exceedingly smelly fish? Take a selection of overripe cheeses. Place them in the midst of a pile of dirty, wet soccer kit. Leave for a week. Now you have the nose-numbing smell of rakfisk, one of the great Norwegian delicacies. I am in the small town of Fagernes, about 3 hours from Oslo. There is snow, spectacular scenery, and that odor, ever present, hangs in the air. Rakfisk is trout sprinkled with salt and fermented in water for, depending on how smelly you like your fish, up to a year. As the dark sets in and the weather turns cold, Norwegians flock to a festival here in Fagernes as devoted to this most, well, captivating of foods. You eat it raw, and then swallow a glass of aquavit, says Havard Halvorsen, full-time local firefighter but also the so-called rakfisk general in charge of running the festival. All around us people are eating little cubes of the fish and knocking back quantities of drink. Some people like the aquavit more than the rakfisk, says Havard. The drink can kill the smell. I try a few pieces. If you can avoid passing it under your nose, it is not bad, not unlike a slice of sushi that has been on rather a long bus journey. You eat it raw, and then swallow a glass of aquavit, says Havard Halvorsen, full-time local firefighter but also the so-called rakfisk general in charge of running the festival. All around us people are eating little cubes of the fish and knocking back quantities of drink. Some people like the aquavit more than the rakfisk, says Havard. The drink can kill the smell. I try a few pieces. If you can avoid passing it under your nose, it is not bad, not unlike a slice of sushi that has been on rather a long bus journey. 5. Century eggs, a long-standing specialty of the Chinese people. This egg recipe is quite simple. First, you need to prepare a mixture of freshly burned black tea, lime, salt and wood ash to cool overnight. The next day, you put the eggs in the mixture, chicken eggs or duck eggs are fine, and soak them anywhere you like. It only takes about 7 weeks to 5 months, you can enjoy the specialty of Chinese century eggs. Due to the action of compounds, after a few months of storage, the normally orange yolks of eggs turn blue-black and the whites turn dark brown or green like marsh water. According to BBC, many people who eat century eggs for the first time think that this dish has a pungent smell like soaked in horse urine. However, to date, no evidence has been found for this claim. In fact, in China, there is also a type of egg soaked in urine, called dong dong, egg boiled in the urine of boys. In Hong Kong, China, there is also a famous shop that transforms century eggs into crispy pies. Each cake costs 4 Hong Kong dollars and 50 cents, but sometimes there is not enough stock to sell. Nowadays, to serve the needs of the masses, people cannot do it in the traditional way, that is, wait a few months for results. Instead, they have to apply mass production technology to make new style centenary eggs. However, to speed up the process, many places also add lead oxide to the composition of the egg-soaked mixture. This substance is considered harmful to human health and is not used in food production. Century eggs are quite famous in Asia, but not every country in the world accepts this strange dish. Recently, the South China Morning Post reported that the Italian Ministry of Health confiscated more than 800 century eggs from 2 Chinese restaurants in Mr. Bianco because they considered them unfit for human consumption. 4. The truth behind the world's stinkiest fermented shark, Hascarl. Iceland is an island nation located in northern Europe, formed from volcanic eruptions many years ago. Talking about cuisine, Hascarl fermented shark or rotten shark is said to be the most famous dish in Iceland that visitors should not miss when coming here. Icelanders often enjoy this specialty dish with alcohol. All ingredients to make the dish are fresh, organically grown in the vegetable gardens of local people. However, the first impression of Hascarl will not be as fresh as you think because of the characteristic rotten smell of fermented meat. Hascarl is made from Greenland sharks. The flesh of this fish when fresh contains high levels of diaminomethanone, urea, and trimethylamine oxide, which are very toxic. However, when processed, they are no longer dangerous and can be used as food. The cleaned shark is fermented in shallow pits for about 6 to 18 weeks depending on the season. After that, people will take the fermented shark, cut it into pieces, and dry it for 1 to 2 months. The dried fish skin will be removed before serving on a plate to enjoy. The scent of fermented shark is very strong. If you are a person with a sensitive sense of smell, you will not be suitable for this dish. On the contrary, if the peculiar smell is ignored, rotten shark can become your favorite dish. 3. Seals stuffed with dead birds test the courage of diners. This is a winter specialty of the Inuits of northern Greenland for centuries. The process of preparing kveik stems from a method of storing food when food sources become scarce in the winter. Fermented birds are the most important ingredient of kveik. They are sometimes served with cheese. The processor must have a seal that has been stripped of the meat until a thick layer of fat is left under the skin. It will be sewn up like a bag to stuff about 300 to 500 small auk birds inside. When the bag is full, it is sewn up again and the stitches are greased to prevent flies. This dead bird stuffed seal is buried under layers of rock for 3 to 18 months. In the harsh winter, because of the ice and darkness, hunting for fresh meat is almost impossible. During this time, bags of fermented meat are dug up, opened, and the dead birds inside can be eaten. Thanks to the fatty layer of seals, the meat of birds is preserved more carefully and is softer. Except for the feathers, all other parts of the bird are edible, including the bones. This dish made from fermented seabirds is not easily digestible to the uninitiated. Although the aftertaste is quite delicious, the minus point and also the special point that many people know about kveik is the strong stench. Only brave diners can enjoy this dish, and those who are not used to it will feel nauseous as soon as they smell it. 2. Egypt's deadly fermented fish specialty, fesek. Fesek, or fisik, is a traditional Egyptian dish made from fermented salted mullet mughal, a saltwater fish that lives in the Mediterranean and Red Seas. In Egypt, people often eat this dish during the festival of Sham el-Nessim to celebrate spring. This is a traditional festival dating back to the time of the pharaohs thousands of years ago. Sham el-Nessim is one of the few festivals that bring Muslims and Coptics in Egypt together. The process of making fesek involves preparing clean fish and then drying it in the sun before fermenting it with salt for 45 days. This is a rather complicated process that is passed down by family, heir to son. However, if processed incorrectly, the dish will become poisonous to the user. This profession in Egyptian is called fasikani, specializing in making fermented fish. The natives of western Egypt used white fish instead of mughal mullet. Every year, the Egyptian Ministry of Health warns about fesek because if not processed properly, this dish is highly toxic and has the risk of death. In 1991, 18 people died from eating fesek fish. In 2010 there were 2 similar cases. In April 2012, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency recalled all fesek fish sold in Toronto because of 3 reports of Clostridium botulinum contamination from eating fesek fish. The recipe for fesek sounds simple, but the secret to successful preparation is knowing how much salt is needed to brew the fish. While the fish is alive, salt will cook the fish, in theory, to prevent rotting. The result after 45 days of taking out the fish will be pale gray and especially smelly. If not enough salt is prepared or there are dead fish in the water, bacteria that cause botulism will spread in the fish incubation environment. People who eat unsafely prepared pheasant will experience vomiting, nausea, paralysis or worse, death. 1. The taste is more than expected from the dish. Rotten herring. Surströmming, rotten herring, is a famous specialty in Sweden. Both flavor and taste give an indelible impression. Herring is always considered a special dish with mixed opinions from diners. And the salted herring, surströmming, even brings a lot of exclamations when it is called one of the world's stinkiest dishes. Surströmming is made from the meat of herring in the Baltic Sea and left to ferment in dilute brine for at least 6 months. Also, thanks to being soaked in salt water, the fish meat is not damaged and has a salty taste that is suitable for many side dishes such as bread, potatoes, red onions, chives and sour cream. The first thing anyone notices is the smell. The smell is strong, pungent and fills the room immediately, museum director Andreas Aron said of surströmming. It is known that about half of visitors to the museum get sick after opening a box of surströmming and smelling this unforgettable taste. Most of those who have the courage to taste it can't swallow it, but have to spit out the piece of fish right away. The next interesting thing is that surströmming's long fermentation period also forms a gas layer. We should therefore avoid opening a surströmming box in an enclosed space. Thank you and everyone for watching the video. Please click like, comment and subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos.